In this review, I am not going to yell, I'm not going to hype the Blessing 2, because there are lots of people hyping these being the best, one of the best, especially in this price range, or just the best under $1,000. And I definitely, on a certain point, on a certain extent, I would agree that this is definitely one of the best, if not the best, depending on what you're actually looking for. I have a little bit problem when trying to record this video, and that problem is I don't really have a lot of IMs to compare with these. I have that Andromeda problem when I reviewed Andromeda. I think I only compared it with the EX1000. Oh yeah, but I have the DM6 and the Neo BG to compare with Andromedas. But that's kind of like, is this how much worse are these IMs compared to the Andromeda? Except for the EX1000, of course. So in this review, I'm going to compare the Blessing 2 with these three IMs. Not really as a comparison, but more of two. These three IMs would help me explain or explain or elaborate on how the Blessing 2 sounds like. So the TLDR is, if you don't know what to buy, if you don't know what to get at the Blessing 2's price point, which is about $300, I guess, $300 or $350, get the Blessing 2s, and they're fantastic. They're fantastic sounding. They have correct, extremely good tonal balance. The technical aspect is very fantastic too. So this is an IM you'd get if you're wondering on what you're gonna get, what you're gonna buy. So yeah, that's it for the Blessing 2 TLDR. I don't have the box. Oh, this unit is actually this is actually a loaner unit from a friend of the channel. I don't know if he would like to be mentioned, so if he would like to be mentioned, I would write the name somewhere here. Thank you for lending this to me, though he definitely not pay me, or I did not pay him for this review. So yeah, he didn't send me the packaging though. He only sent me this carrying case with some ear tips inside. The carrying case is a bit big. It's a bit bigger. It feels fantastic. It's kind of type of rubbery leather, not pure leather, but like rubbery leather. The cable is okay, I guess. I think it's Moondrop lace, the name. Some people hate the splitter here. I think it's just fine. But you don't have that chin slider, which some people really need to have. The IM itself is pretty weighty. It's quite solid. It's not hollow. It's not something like the L3, which is like hollow inside. It's not. The faceplate is also looks very, very beautiful and premium. Also, at least I would prefer the smaller ear tips. I usually wear medium to large, but for the Blessing 2, I use a small size to get a deep fit, which is the most comfortable. The comfort here seems to bother some people due to the size of the thing. This is compared to the DM6. It's still pretty huge. The DM6 in itself is not really a small IM. That's why I think this is, oh shit, this thing's actually pretty huge for an IM. Don't even start comparing them with the Starfields, because those are small, tiny compared to these. Hefty piece of shit. But they sound fantastic, okay? Let's Let's get to the sound. Trifecta, the bass. The bass is fast. It's fast in attack, but it still have that natural DD decay due to these using a dynamic driver for the bass. They are not as textured as what I would prefer, but they are definitely have that type of dynamic driver impact if you're looking for that you might not have in something like the Andromedas. And they have fantastic bass for a full BA setup. If you're looking, they are definitely probably not the most resolving type of bass. I would still not hear. I don't hear like all the details that I'm looking for in the bass, but it's definitely still fantastic for a hybrid IM to have still that coherent bass there. It's not really that disconnected bass if you like that type of sound. No, it's the bass is there, but it's not the main focus of the sound. The mid-range is also, to be honest, it's not really something that in mid-range in terms of vocals, these generate excellent vocal tonality. But the thing is, the weirdness, I guess, the weirdness of the Blessing 2 is their placement of sound, which the vocal tend to be more in front of you. So it's not a very forward vocal, but it is definitely accentuated at that frequency range. It's like the 2K and 3K range is definitely have a bit boost there, but it's not. It doesn't make the vocal sound intimate or forward at all. Everything sounds correct. It sounds pretty detailed. It's not. Nothing sounds off like at all. It sounds very good in the mid range. I would prefer a bit more warmth or a bit more body in some male vocals. However, due to the probably due to the in front of you type of sound that it made in the mid range in the vocal department, every instrument sounds very correct here. Very it is a well tuned IM, in my opinion. The treble region is what I think probably the most lacking, especially in the treble air when you're looking for something at the 12K region. I would prefer a little bit more boost there, but in general they still sound fantastic. Treble here still sounds fantastic. When I say lacking, I mean lacking in quantity in treble region, in the treble air region, not in quality, because these have excellent treble quality also. It's never sharp, it's never sibilant, it's never grainy, it's never messy, it's never bad. It's not really the most mind-blowing type of treble, but it's not bad. It's never annoying. Okay, like something from the EX1000 or the M6 or the T4, they all have some type of treble weirdness, treble caveats to them. Though not in the Blessing 2, which they sound very, very safe, very, very correct. And I guess that's for the general trifecta review. And now it's for the technicality aspect. With the Blessing 2, I think they are legit the best IM for imaging and separation and soundstage depth at under $1,000. I think they're legit one of the best, or the best at that region, or just straight up the best at that region. Because when I take a listen to the Blessing 2 IM, I had the urge to compare them to something like the Hi-Fi Arias or the R70X, like open back, full-sized headphones, which I'm quite hesitant to do that because the Aria would just rip these to shreds, but they have that type of imaging and separation and soundstage depth that IMs usually don't have. It's like something only about high-end headphones, open back headphones, have the type of forwardness, like it's like the forward depth type of sound that is very peculiar with it in an IM form. It's not really common here. It's like when I'm describing the Andromedas, when I mentioned that they have that type of tallness, that type of grandness of the sound. It's not really like that, but it's much more type of a 3D sound. It's just a different class from anything I've reviewed before, and they are excellent and fantastic at that part. The more I'm sorry, I'm a bit sick currently, so bear with the sniffles and shit. The most lacking department, I guess, in the technicality aspects is pure detail retrieval, bro. In like image clarity and what do you call, it's like the finite details. If you're looking for finite details, like the absolute pixels of the music you're listening to, I don't think the Blessing 2 could do that as well as something even like the... I have a lot of obscure IMs, okay? I have this. I bet you've never heard one of these, or you did. It's the Aartio RK1. It's an obscure Japanese IM and has fantastic detail retrieval. It's not it's pretty rare, I guess, outside Japan. It has fantastic detail retrieval, but they tend to get very sharp with shallow fits and non-well recorded IMs, much like the EX1000. So if you're looking for purely detail, something like that would probably suffice more than the Blessing 2s. But if you're looking for something very relaxing, very correct sounding, very non-fatiguing, with excellent imaging and separation and soundstage depth, while not as wide as probably the EX1000, but then I think this is a very good choice, a very good choice. It's like an IM that you can't go wrong in purchasing. I don't know if you're gonna really like them, but you're gonna like them at a certain extent if you can get the fit right, because it's huge. It's again very huge, like my dick. I guess that's it. Let's get to the comparison. I don't think I can really compare them apple to apple, except against the EX1000, but I'll do that later. Against the Tinti T4s, they have in general a very similar tonality, but not quite. It's really difficult to explain it. everything in the TNT2 sounds more forward, sounds more closer, sounds more intimate, though it has a bit wider in soundstage, in lateral width, specifically, just a bit. It's a bit wider in lateral width than the Blessing 2's. However, because of the Blessing 2's superior forward imaging, or some might say, if you like something more intimate, inferior forward imaging, everything sounds more intense in the TNT4's. And the TNT4's itself is not a very intense headphone, not in any way, shape or form. It just makes the TNT4 sounds more intense. And the treble peak is also quite different. The TNT4 has that type of 5.6K treble peak, which may cause some kind of smearing or compression at percussion hits, while the Blessing 2 is very safe and very reserved at that point and at specific frequency response. The TNT4 has also a bit more airiness to the sound, while if you compare them at detail retrieval, or anything else on that matter, like the tightness of bass, like the imaging, definitely, or like the overall tonal balance, I would still put the Blessing 2 over the TNT4s because of that, definitely that 5.6K region. The price jump is pretty significant for a very similar tuning, though I think it's very worth it. The price jump is very worth it if you're actually looking for that absolute listening experience from an IM. I guess the DM6, I've been shitting on the DM6 for quite some time, but if you're looking for that tallness that Andromeda can generate, the cheapest IM that I can find that could make that is the DM6. And the Blessing 2's, while not being tall, like tallness of the sound, is not there. The instruments are not huge. They are better at creating that separation, creating that 3D sound. Like, you know what's happening here, you know what's happening there. It's just a different experience. The tonality is definitely more correct here. I'm not talking about tonality. I'm talking with the DM6. A bit, it has a type of like sandy, like grainy type of sound also in the DM6. But I don't think it's because of the lack of detail retrieval. Because if you're looking at what do you call that? The macro details, I would probably put the DM6 on par at least with the Blessing 2 if you're looking for just like micro details. That is the part. But if you're looking for something more correct in an overall IEM, the price jump here is not significant if you would compare the sound quality, if you would put it side by side with the sound quality difference. The more interesting comparison is the Sony EX1000. I know not a lot of people have owned nor heard one of these before, but these are truly fantastic IM. If you can see or you can find them in a used marketplace, I would add reasonable being about probably $300. I would advise you to get one, because these do things that a lot of IEMs under $1,000 can't do. The EX1000 is my favorite IEM, so this comparison is going to be a bit biased, though I would try to be as impartial as possible when comparing these two. If you're looking for that type of separation and 3D sound, and in general a very safe and correct tonality, the Blessing 2 is still the better option than the EX1000. Though if you know what you're looking for, if you're looking for something, if you're looking for that absolute finite detail retrieval, if you're looking for that warmth in the lower frequencies, if you're looking for that bass impact. By the way, these two are graphed. The Blessing 2 are graphed a bit more bassier than the EX1000, though when you actually take a listen to them, the EX1000 actually does more bass than the Blessing 2. This has far better bass texture, bass impact than the Blessing 2s. They are the bass here is fantastic. Okay. It's very, very deep, very, very textured. It is also warmer sounding somehow to my ears. It has that type of treble peaks at the EX1000, which is not present at the Blessing 2s, but the EX1000 is just, in general, I guess, warmer. Like male vocals sounds a bit more livelier in the EX1000 than in the Blessing 2s, which in the Blessing 2 is kind of a bit thin for my preference, I guess. So yeah, and this is also wider in soundstage laterally. So the comparison between the Blessing 2 and the EX1000. Oh yeah, and the most important part about the EX1000, the EX1000 is kind of testing the listeners. Are they worth the EX1000 or not? Because the fitting doesn't fit everyone. First of all, you need a deep fit. Which means you gotta jam things deep inside of your ears. Like you gotta go balls deep with these. And second of all, which I guess to a certain extent, the Blessing 2 also kind of tested you with the size of your. If you have giant ears, you can fit these, and you're basically what deserve of like the chosen one, I guess. However, I think it's a bit more prevalent in the EX1000 rather than the Blessing 2s, because people complain about fitting here more, I guess, especially in my experience. If you don't have that deep ass, like balls deep type of fit, you're not gonna get the best sound out of the EX1000. The EX1000 is also more amp picky, I guess. It kind of really affects the sound. So, and also these have almost zero isolation. So if you're walking about, I don't think the EX1000 is really worth to own, like to buy or to look for. But if you're like more of a work from home, or I'm gonna just use this sitting down in a relatively quiet room, the EX1000 is definitely a fantastic IEM. I would still prefer the EX1000 over the Blessing 2 in an ideal environment with a well-recorded music, because this fucks you up with a terribly recorded music. However, the Blessing 2 is kind of like, oh yeah, this music is bad, while the EX1000 goes fuck you and fuck you. That's the difference when you're using terrible recorded or mixed music with these two IEMs. Whilst the ARTO would just choke you in your sleep. So yeah, I guess there's a comparison between these two IEMs. It's kind of like which one would you need more, I guess, if that makes sense. So that's it about the review of the Blessing 2. If you have the $300, if you have like something like $250, and I would advise you to save that money and buy the Blessing 2 if you know what you're looking for, if this type of sound is what you're looking for, because it's basically one of the best. It's the best in class, definitely, or the best under 1,000, and that's quite a feat, actually. The problem when claiming these to be the best 1,000 is I've not heard the Fear Audio Monarch before, the Clairvoyance, and I heard that they are actually fantastic IMs. I would love to listen to them in the future. Okay, thank you for listening. See you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment anything you would like to comment. Don't forget to watch Jason's video right there. And see you next time. Godspeed.